What's a scary film that's not actually a horror film? No Country for Old Men. The big thing that makes this movie so uneasy is the silence. An excellent choice to have no score throughout the movie. Really racks up the tension. The gas station scene was probably the most intense 4 minutes I've ever experienced. The Truman Show. Still not 100% convinced I'm not being filmed without my knowledge 15 years later. Willy Wonka. Hands down. Gave me nightmares as a kid. That damn tunnel scene. And then the more you think about everything that happened to the children. Oh God. We need to talk about Kevin. 2011. Tilda Swinton, Ezra Miller, and John C. Reilly. A mother deals with the aftermath of her son's violent action while having flashbacks to him growing up and seeing all the red flags that led up to the event. My mother read the book. She was unsettled for quite a while. In the book it's pretty clear she never bonded with her child. But the question is, did she not bond because he was a disturbed kid the whole time? Or did he become disturbed because his mother didn't bond with him? Great, but disturbing read. I read the book. The kid was an asshole from birth lol. Biased perspective though. Cat in the Hat. Like what the actual K. Mike Myers had signed on to Universal for a 3-movie deal, but the planned third film was cancelled and the executives forced him to do Cat in the Hat instead. He retaliated by improvising most of the film's dirty jokes. Dirty ho, I'm sorry baby, I didn't mean it. Coraline. I don't know what genre Parasite is, but if it's not horror, then Parasite. Before knowing anything about it, I thought it was some horror flick about parasites wrecking fools. Annihilation had me fooled with that screaming death bear scene. That's a damn good movie. Very pleasantly surprised by it. But yeah, that bear scene was legitimately horrifying. Chernobyl, the HBO miniseries. Especially when you know that it actually happened. Chernobyl had this sense of horror I've never quite seen before, where they take everyday problems and ramp the stakes up to as high as they possibly can. You got a shitty boss. How's about having a shitty boss sending you to your death? That series low-key made me more emotionally prepared for the last several months of working frontline pandemic shifts. In that thanks to it I knew in advance just how badly I was about to be fucked over. I've used that series to reference a lot of what's going on in America right now. And this moment in time feels like everyone standing on the bridge to watch the fire, not realizing just how fucked they're going to be. Hashtag the brave little toaster. Donnie Darko. The whole movie is unsettling and it's a thriller. It's not horror at all. But the mere atmosphere is gloomy and depressing as well as the imagery. Requiem for a Dream. *Threads*. A BBC made-for-TV film from 1984. It's a very straightly played drama of a nuclear war. There aren't any heroes. No grand moments. Just a bunch of everyday characters painfully and slowly struggling on before dying one by one, caused by something completely beyond their control. The horror part comes from the brutally realistic elements in it. There isn't anything Mad Max about the end of the war. Just a bunch of shell-shocked people trying to find rats to eat in the rumble. It's haunting. This is a perfect example of the question. I'm huge into psych horror like The Lighthouse, and this old-ass made-for-TV movie is still creepy and haunting to this day. Trainspotting. That one scene with the baby? Yep. Baby on the ceiling or dead baby? I always think dead baby is the more horrific scene because it forces the reality of the situation on the viewer. Just for a little piece of useless information, the baby was played by twins and they were allowed to play with the fake dead baby to occupy them in between the couple of scenes they had. Obviously they have no memory of it. The Black Cauldron. It was a movie that Disney tried to sweep under the rug, but it still haunts me after seeing it about 3 years ago. I've always been too scared to watch A Clockwork Orange. It intrigued me as a young person. When I watched it as an older person, it was terrifying. I watched that with my mother when I was a teenager. Not a good choice. Gone Girl. I haven't actually seen the film, but the book is phenomenal. A structure unlike any book I've read before or since. I broke up with my girlfriend within 4 months of watching that movie, realizing she was both insane and intelligent enough to pull something like that off. Disney's Pinocchio. I mean, yeah, we all remember the cutesy stuff. I got no strings to hold me down. I'm a real boy, always let your conscience be your guide. All that wholesome stuff. But we kinda forgot the part where Stromboli locks Pinocchio in a cage. That bit where he turns into a donkey after we're first introduced to the coachman. And the scene near the end where Pinocchio almost drowns after being eaten alive by a giant whale. And that's not even mentioning the original text that the movie is based off of. That's even more harrowing. Mother. I think it's more of a thriller or a religious allegory rather than a horror. But tonality, that film gave me a panic attack because of what happens on screen. It's not so much scary as it is anxiety food. I found this a very strange film to watch until I read what the metaphor of the film was in. Absolutely adored it. A similar film to this that has a metaphor is called The Platform, but it's about capitalism this time, not religion. But I highly recommend if you enjoyed that film. Oh, I absolutely adored The Platform. I prefer capitalist metaphors in films if you liked The Platform for their take on capitalist structures. You'll enjoy the Snowpiercer TV series. It gives a real in-depth look to class inequality. It's absolutely a horror film this year. The whole thing is shot like a never-ending nightmare. The Dark Crystal. The Skeksis are pure nightmare fuel. The Polar Express. The scene where the train stops in front of a herd of reindeer and they pull on the dude's beard to get him to scream scared the shit out of me when I was younger. Yes. And the scene in the North Pole when the creepy record player keeps restarting and they have to climb over the bridge shutters. I just watched The Matrix for the first time and I definitely was scared by the dystopian theme, the philosophy and the questions it raises about our existence, even though there were not really any horror elements in it. Have you seen Dark City? No, I haven't, but seems something that needs to be added to my to-view list from the looks of it. Little Nemo, Adventures in Slumberland and the Secret of NIMH. Yo, I was trying to think of a cartoon movie that scared the shit out of me as a kid, where a kid has a key that can open any door in the castle, and opens the only one he's told not to and evil ooze pours out. It's been bothering me for years. It was Little Nemo this whole time. Thank you. I thought I dreamt it or was going crazy. Good answers. The Dark Ooze from the Door, The Nightmare King, The Wise Owl. Not a film, but a game. Subnautica. Oh baby, yes. Subnautica is the first game I ever did all the achievements for. If you don't think you fear the deep ocean, play that game. The sense of dread and impending doom is top-notch. Especially if your sub breaks deep underwater. You are running out of oxygen, desperately swimming to the surface, and the screen slowly fades to black. That part in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, when Dumbledore and Harry goes on the Horcrux hunt, and the Lumos spell fades, and boom, that zombie thing catches Harry. Watched it 11 years ago in cinema. That jump scare still haunts me to this day. I saw that at the theater too, at the tender age of 23. I still haven't lived that one down. Remember when you got scared watching Harry Potter? Single quote. To be fair, up until I was 8 I had the biggest fear of Harry Potter, and when The Prisoner of Azkaban came on the telly I ran away crying. Seeing the Sirius poster, I was a little bitch. I can't remember, but I'm sure it's also Prisoner of Azkaban where I got scared at Harry screaming at the Dursleys. Also, my brother made me watch a Dementor scene and I didn't sleep for about a week. It's so weird, cause Dumbledore death I didn't mind that much. Like I cried so hard at Always though. Jesus Camp. Real life is always scarier than fiction. Mulholland Drive. One scene in particular. I wanted to say anything from David Lynch, but that's good enough. I watched it over 10 years ago. I remember it was creepy and one scene threw me off. The Little Rat one by any chance? It was after two guys were in a diner and they go to a back alley. It was more of a jump scare, but it got me good. Idiocracy. Shutter Island. It was odd because it was kind of marketed as a horror but ended up being more of a psychological thriller. Still has some pretty creepy, scary aspects to it. Synecdoche, New York. Charlie Kaufman's, writer of Eternal Sunshine on the Spotless Mind. Adaptation, being John Malkovich. First directed film. He did it after a studio approached him about directing a horror film this year instead of making a movie about monsters, or serial killers, or ghosts. He made a movie about what actually frightened him. His loved ones getting sick and not being able to help. His daughter drifting away from him and not loving him. Not finding happiness, etc. If I had to choose a single best movie I've ever watched, I'd be hard-pressed not to say that one. I've seen it once and I never want to watch it again. You should watch it again. It can mean different things to you during different points in your life. Watership Down. The Big Short. I remember driving with my dad to all those half-built houses. Just standing there, rotting away like some corpse of a house. It was awful to see and think about what that meant for everybody. And then to watch the movie years after that and remember, I moved from one Midwest city to another in 2010. Maybe a block down from my new place. There were 3 partially built houses. Maybe once a year, someone would come out and putz around the worksite for a day. They didn't finish the houses for 5 years. I have no clue how someone could buy a house that just sat exposed for that long. James and the Giant Peach. Hands down. Outbreak. Scared the shit out of me as a kid. You should read the book that it is based on. The Hot Zone by Richard Preston. Also read The Demon in the Freezer by the same author. Enemy. If you enjoyed that film, I'd highly recommend the book that it's based on, The Double by Jose Saramago. Nobel Prize-winning author. And the tone is more introspective and romantic. Saramago is a master of fantasy realism. Monsieur. Prisoners. Any Black Mirror episode. I can't watch some of them. Monsieur, the one of the bees killing is so unsettling. It's not the technology but the people's reaction that scares so much because of how realistic their reactions are. Movie adaptation of 1984 with John Hurt. You're a Thought Criminal. Just came out today on Amazon Prime. Destroyer Monsieur. En Frigitellekind. A Horrible Woman. Danish movie about a guy who ends up in an abusive relationship with a psychopathic woman who destroys him with her words and gaslighting and control. It is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. You feel, at all times, that someone is gonna snap soon and stab the other to death. It also hits home for me since I once was in a verbally abusive relationship with a psychopath myself, and even though the genders are flipped, it's eerie how similar this woman's abuse tactics are to what my ex would do. Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure. The accident, hospital scene with the clowns. That always used to creep me out as a kid. Are we not gonna talk about Large Fucking Marge? Tellin' Large Marge sent ya. The clown when the bike was stolen did it for me. Literally ran out of the room as a kid. I got nightmares from cars when I was 6 because of the big-ass trucks that looked like house tractors. Unless you mean Frank, but he's a combine. Threads always wins this one. It will affect you. Oh snap. I was gonna suggest it. It still delivers a gut punch. Jag 10. The Hunt. I think it's a drama but it should be labeled a psychological horror emo. The one that terrified me was Everest. I was so scared after I saw that movie that I actively searched to find my favorite stuffed animal from when I was a kid. Deliverance. Idiocracy. Because it's happening right now. Welcome to Costo. I love you. You know, the scary thing is the people in that movie aren't even bad people, just dumb. They are idiots, but most of them generally mean well. I always thought that was clever. In the end, people are just people, but it was the inaction of the common man that led to it. I bet I still have some issues from watching The Labyrinth when I was little. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.